On Tech News Today, the FCC will rewrite the rules for net neutrality. Dotcom's arrest was ruled legal. And China cracks down on chip giant Qualcomm. All that and more coming up next.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
It's Wednesday, February 19th, 2014, and this is Tech News Today. This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create your own professional website or online portfolio. For a free 2-week trial and 10% off, go to squarespace.com and use the offer code TNT2. And by Gazelle, the fast and simple way to sell your used gadgets. Find out what your used iPhone, iPad, and other Apple products are worth at Gazelle.com. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Mike Elgin.
I'm Jason Howell.
Tech News Today explores the most important stories of the day in conversation with the world's leading journalists. Our guest today is David Corsi, a writer, broadcaster, event host, industry analyst, and business consultant. Welcome, David.
Good morning, and thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. So what have you been up to these days? You've been around for a long time and done a lot of great work. And what's your most recent projects?
Currently, I am mostly writing commentary for SiliconANGLE, which is a news site that we invite you to visit at siliconangle.com. And I ought to say something about your sponsor, Unsolicited. I've been using Squarespace for 100 years. And they have the best tech support I've ever experienced. So unsolicited sponsor testimonial.
I totally agree with that. Their tech support is actually kind of shocking, but we'll get to their ad in just a second. But I do appreciate that. Let's get right to the news, David. The FCC today said it will rewrite the rules for net neutrality. The new guidelines will strongly support net neutrality, fortunately, which means that companies will be prevented from charging different rates or offering different speeds based on the source of internet content. Last month, of course, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia canceled the FCC's authority to impose net neutrality rules because of how it classifies internet providers. Now, this is a kind of an interesting development because a lot of people, David, have been calling on the FCC to fix this problem by reclassifying internet providers as public utilities, and it doesn't want to do that. Apparently, it's trying not to do that, and so it's a little unclear about how they might change these rules to allow for net neutrality without reclassifying internet providers. What do you think they're going to do?
Well, the FCC is notorious for doing the wrong thing and killing whole industries. You'll notice that AM stereo in your car, the issue of UHF television channels, etc. So you can't count on the FCC to get it right. They tend to get little things right, the big things become political, and then it becomes a problem for the commission to do the right thing. We shouldn't be having a debate on net neutrality, but then we should have had a debate on whether you can own carriage and content. NBC Universal or Comcast NBC shouldn't be able to own, in my opinion, both the content and the carriage. That's just a bad thing. And that's sort of part of what net neutrality is about, in which the carriers potentially would discriminate against people they don't have business relationships with, or for whatever other reason that they have. Getting away from net neutrality is a terrible thing, but it's not a given that we're going to get net neutrality. So it's important that we stay vigilant and be ready to protest for it once again.
That's a great point. And of course, they're leaving open the possibility of reclassifying internet providers. So they're kind of hedging their bets. And they hope these new rules to go into effect in late spring or early summer. This is important stuff. So everybody will be waiting to see what they do because it's going to literally affect everything in the United States about how the internet works. So let's hope they somehow miraculously do the right thing and impose strong net neutrality rules and support net neutrality. Well, in just a second, we're going to learn about some changes over at LinkedIn. But first, I want to talk about Squarespace. Squarespace is an awesome site. David loves it. I love it. I've been using it for a couple of years now. David has been using it for 100 years, apparently. And it's a fantastic site that enables you to build a beautiful website. Now, everybody ought to have a website or two or three or four. There are a million reasons to have a website. You may have a small business. You may want to promote something. You may have a wedding coming up, like my son is getting married pretty soon. He built a Squarespace site that's quite beautiful, and it's super, super easy to do. They have 25 beautiful templates for you to start with. So you go in and you pick from among their incredibly, breathtakingly well-designed templates, and then you can tweak and customize those templates so that your website is unique. You add your own photos, whatever it is you want to do to make a perfect website. Then you can use their brand new logo creator tool. This is a tool for you to design your own logo. If you think you're not a designer, you might want to think again after you've tried this tool. This tool will give you all these shapes and colors and options for you to tweak and perfect a logo that's unique to you and your business, and then you can use that on your site to brand your content, brand your products, brand your service, whatever it is you're doing with your website. As we mentioned earlier, their tech support is legendary. It's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. A real human being who knows what they're talking about will get right back to you and answer your question every time. It's really a great service for customer help. They have a customer help site for easier access to self-help articles too, so you can go in and you can learn more about building and maintaining a fantastic website. Now, this sounds expensive because it looks expensive because this is really beautiful stuff, but it starts at only $8 a month, and it includes a free domain name if you sign up for a year. And of course, Squarespace is legendarily mobile ready. What that means several things. As a content creator, you can go in and manage your site with their mobile apps, with their iPhone and iPad app called the Squarespace Metric app. You can manage your blog with mobile devices, but just building a site on Squarespace will make you look beautiful on iPhones, on Android phones, on any sort of phone or tablet. It recreates a site on the go depending on the device, so your site always looks fantastic. So start a free 2-week trial today with no credit card required and start building your website. When you decide to sign up for Squarespace, make sure you use the offer code TNT2 to get 10% off, and also to show your support for Tech News Today. And we thank Squarespace for their support of Tech News Today. And remember that a better website awaits, and it starts with your Squarespace website. Well, apparently everyone's an influencer on LinkedIn now. The business-oriented social site has expanded its influencer feature to all users. The feature allows the publishing of long-form articles, and it used to be available only to hand-selected celebrities. With us to tell us about this is Mike Isaac, Recode's senior editor for social. Welcome, Mike.
Hey, how's it going?
So what have they done exactly here? Are they immediately pushing it out to all users?
Yeah, so just to back up a little bit, LinkedIn basically rolled out this influencer program, as you just said, a few years ago to try to get people to come to the platform a lot more than just basically to check their resume and update their resume. So back then it was like big names like Richard Branson or I don't know, CEOs. I think the former CEO of Burberry did a number of guest posts, and it was basically like, okay, we are a content site as well. You know, there are articles and thought leader things that people were posting, and so now I believe today, basically anyone who has a LinkedIn account can start posting their own sort of bloggy type things, which will show up on their individual profile sections.
Now, I understand that they only had about 300 people and that they were hand-selected by LinkedIn. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. They basically they went to different industries and picked some of the biggest voices or biggest names in the areas. So again, like fashion would have been Burberry CEO. They had a number of tech folks doing some stuff, some journalism people. I think Jessica Lesson, who has a new tech site, has been posting. So yeah, before it was pretty small, and like you said, they called it their influencer program. So, you know, big people you should be listening to in the business or professional world.
Now, LinkedIn has about 300 million users, I believe, and it seems to me that this is an attempt to get people to spend more time on the site. It's a strategy that a lot of companies are using content to lure in people. Is this really going to work? Aren't we kind of in the middle of a glut of articles in general and long-form articles in particular?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. These days, essentially, I wrote about it this morning, and essentially everyone's sort of got a content marketing person, or there's VC firms making their partners blog about what they're thinking about. And it's really funny because there's just so many things to read, and I think what, at least personally, like what I think is we need some better curation, essentially like better direction on where to go and what sort of essential things we need to read. And there's no way of telling whether the stuff that's going to appear on LinkedIn from the 280 300 million people on there is going to be any good or not. Like there's a reason why I write for a living and other people don't, which sounds like it sounds, but I think it's not everyone can write, and not everyone has great thoughts on stuff. So we'll see if it actually works.
It's a little bit unnerving because my understanding is that what they're going to do is you can post a story, and then if it's popular among your social group, it could go out and go to the larger LinkedIn community, which means that people are going to be harassing their social group on LinkedIn to please, engage with my content so that it goes viral, kind of a thing. So hopefully we won't have a bunch of promotional spams. Well, Mike, I appreciate you coming on and explaining this. Thanks again.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
You can find Mike Isaac at Mike Isaac on Twitter. Well, Microsoft relaunched its cloud storage service today. What used to be called SkyDrive is now branded OneDrive. Plus, Microsoft made a few changes, and to explain some of those changes, we have with us Lance Whitney, a writer for CNET. Welcome, Lance.
How are you?
I'm doing great. So what did they announce exactly, and how is this really different from SkyDrive?
It's really not that different. It's more of a rebranding of the SkyDrive service. Microsoft got into some legal difficulties last year because there's a British company that claimed the trademark to Sky. So rather than fighting the issue, Microsoft agreed to rename their online storage site. So OneDrive is essentially a rebranding of SkyDrive. Microsoft is taking the opportunity to promote it and tout it to new users or existing users, but it's basically the same cloud-based service at this point that we've known with SkyDrive.
Now, Microsoft is offering a bunch of new ways to get free storage. Is that right? I understand if you do this, you get this much. If you do that, you do that much. What exactly, like what's the most you can get, and how do you get it?
Well, there are a few things Microsoft is cooking. There's you get 7 gigabytes right off the bat. You get an additional few gigabytes if you use a new feature in the mobile app to automatically upload your camera photos to OneDrive. You also get a few gigabytes for free if you refer other people to OneDrive. But the biggest promotion that's going on today is Microsoft is offering 100 gigabytes of free storage, which normally costs $50 a year. And to get that amount of storage, you have to fill out some sort of puzzle at Microsoft's OneDrive site. I took a look at the puzzle. It's a little bit confusing at first glance, so I'm not quite sure what the story is there. But for anyone who can figure out the puzzle, assuming you're one of the first 100,000 people to sign in and figure it out, then you can score those 100 gigabytes of free space. They're only good for a year, though. So it's also to Microsoft's benefit. If you do get those 100 gigabytes for a year and somehow you manage to fill up all that space and the year is over, well, now you've got to kick in $50 for a renewal to that storage space. So it benefits the users, but of course it benefits Microsoft as well.
Well, thank you for explaining this change to us, Lance. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike.
You can find Lance Whitney at Lance Witt, W-H-I-T, on Twitter. Well, the New Zealand court today ruled that the arrest of Mega Upload founder Kim Dotcom was legal. The ruling may increase the chances that Dotcom will be extradited to the United States to face online piracy charges. Boy, this was quite a blow, David. He was sitting pretty there for a while because an earlier court had ruled it unconstitutional, said that there were problems with the warrant. This appeals court said, no, the warrants were fine. So it looks like a lot of his plans are kind of going up in smoke here.
They certainly could be changing, and he could be doing some time in a United States federal prison at some point. That doesn't bother me very much. I, of course, was one of the people who early on said that the Napster people needed to go to jail, even though I knew some of them personally and closely. But, stealing content isn't cool. We're content creators. We ought to, be in favor of enforcement of, piracy laws on content, on merchandise that's sold online. We need for online to be a safe and reliable place, and it's not going to be as long as we allow cybercrime of various types to continue. So this is a good day for crime fighting.
One of the interesting things about the U.S. Justice Department's case is that they claim that Mega Upload encouraged piracy by paying users who uploaded popular content and deleting content that wasn't regularly downloaded. In other words, there were built-in incentives for you to get people to download your content, whether it was pirated or not pirated, which they say is essentially evidence that it was a pirate or pro-pirate site. Will you agree with that case?
I would want to see it made in court. Certainly, it sounds like they were trying to get users to do their dirty work for them and incentivize them to go out and promote the platform. Of course, Microsoft, we were just talking about, they'll give you some gigs up on OneDrive if you're willing to go and promote it to your friends. I presume that there are deals that LinkedIn and Facebook and everybody will do something for you if you're willing to promote them. So that's not that surprising that as a business tactic, but it is questionable in the circumstance where there's lots of illegal content there and you seem to be promoting it.
Well, it's an interesting case, and we'll be watching it. If this comes to the United States, if he's extradited and this goes to court, it'll probably go all the way up to the Supreme Court. And this will set a precedent for the role of companies that provide a service that enables people to share files that will affect the whole industry. So we'll be watching this very, very closely. Well, the Dutch telecom giant KPN is now partnering with Silent Circle, the U.S. company that makes software for secure calls and messages. KPN is the first telco in the world to offer Silent Circle products, and these will be available to customers in the Netherlands, Germany, and Belgium. This is a really interesting company because essentially what they do is they provide all kinds of ways to essentially protect yourself from the NSA and anyone else who might want to spy on you. Their silent phone and silent text products they cost $9.95 per month or $100 per year, and these enable you to communicate essentially without being trackable. There's no metadata and so on. Of course, Silent Circle famously shut down its Silent Mail email service to protect users' privacy. Do you think this is going to be a trend globally, David, where telcos are actually offering this kind of secure communication?
Well, do we believe that it's actually secure? Up until Edward Snowden, we believed that a lot of things that it turned out aren't secure were secure. So, yeah, I guess you can go pay these people $9.95, and I guess that's better than merely taking your chances online. It could also, however, make you a more interesting target. Where do the bad guys go? Well, the bad guys go where they can hide all their stuff. So let's go check there first. Where do the criminals hang out? That sounds a little alarmist, but I think there's something to be said for it, that if you have to hide all your email, there may be a reason, and that may be something that the NSA or the Russians or the Chinese, all the people that are doing evil things that Edward Snowden didn't rat on, would be interested in. So I would want to see some real proof that this is secure, and I know we're never really going to get that proof.
Yeah, and there's literally no way for the public, especially, to know exactly what's going on in terms of surveillance and spying and so on, usually. Now, one of the interesting things about this is that the company, Silent Circle, is also partnering with a Spanish company called GeeksPhone. We reported this a few weeks ago, and this is for a secure phone that's going to be announced we expect next week, called the Black Phone. And the Black Phone is essentially an Android phone that's been optimized for encrypted security, encrypted communication, and for secure storage of files and so on. And you mentioned that the use of this kind of product could make you a target. In fact, that was one of the eye-opening facts about the movie Zero Dark 30, where essentially the entire case about who they went after was based on the actions that the potential perpetrators took to evade detection. So that's the thing that made them suspicious in the eyes of the U.S. security establishment. Well, Evan Blass posted an allegedly leaked photo of what he calls the all-new HTC One on his EvLeaks Twitter feed. This is a good-looking phone. Look at that. It's gold. Wonder where they got that idea. Now, this is, this is an incremental step forward in what we think we understand about this phone. But what I like about this phone, what I think is super interesting, is you see on the back, if you put that back up there, Jason, you see the two cameras on the top. This is rumored to have two cameras. One of them is a 6-megapixel camera, and the other is an 8-megapixel camera. And the idea here is that this will help in low-light photography and probably also do some refocusing tricks that enable you to refocus the image after you've taken it. So, for example, maybe the cameras focus on two different things. Each one focuses on two different aspects of the photo, and then later you can go in there and do some monkey business with the photo to refocus it. Jason, this is a great phone. I mean, the HTC One is a great phone. I imagine this is going to be a better phone. It's supposed to be a little bit bigger. Is this a compelling phone to you?
Is it compelling? I mean, that remains to be seen. The two cameras, we're still kind of trying to figure out exactly why they're putting two cameras on there, whether it's the refocusing after the fact, which is interesting. Lytro has certainly captured a lot of people's imaginations. But then, well, and also I should say that the HTC One that came out last year has a pretty good camera in it to begin with. What we were talking about this on All About Android last night is, do we want them to come out with these features that are different, something that you've never seen before, two cameras on the back of the phone, or do we just want the core features to be better? Most phones nowadays come out, or at least Android phones, come out with a camera that's okay. Instead of putting a second camera on it, focus that attention and that R&D and all that kind of money that you're putting into the development of this phone to make the camera that's there better, because that's what people are going to use most of the time. If it's a matter of refocusing after the fact, neat gimmick. How many people are really going to buy this phone just because of that? I'm guessing, it's not going to save HTC. That one feature isn't the one thing that's going to save HTC.
That's a great point. And so if it enables better pictures, I agree with you. I think that's going to be a killer feature. If it's a gimmick, if it's another tricky thing that you can use in their proprietary app, then that's probably an entirely different thing. Now, this phone is expected March 25th in announcements in London and New York. So we'll be watching that very carefully. It's interesting that they chose not to announce those at Mobile World Congress. David, any comments on this phone? You like the HTC One, the existing one?
I'd rather have a 14-megapixel phone with really good zoom is what I want. Yeah. I mean, I typically use an iPhone. I've played with the HTC One. I generally find the lenses to be too wide angle. So you want to take a picture of something a little farther away, and you don't have the megapixels to do it. The built-in zoom doesn't work very well. So I need more megapixels. I need a better zoom, and that would make this even better of a camera for what I do. And it's regardless of who makes it. It's just what basic functionality does the user need? More megapixels, always better. A faster shutter is always better. Low light performance is always better. And the ability to have a meaningful zoom, always better. I don't think I need two lenses on my camera to accomplish that.
I just want to be able to make calls with my Canon camera. That would be fantastic.
Go the other direction. I like it.
Absolutely. Just give me really, really good photography. Well, Amazon's virtual currency called Amazon Coins are now available on all Android devices for users in the US, UK, and Germany. Used to be offered only on Amazon's own Kindle tablets. This is some kind of funny money here, David. What is it? Are they going to go anywhere with this? It seems to be a promotional kind of gimmick to get people to buy stuff from the Amazon store, to get developers to build things for the Amazon Kindle. Is this really going to become a phenomenon and used by a great many people at some point?
Well, Amazon has the ability to drive people to do stuff. They are the world's largest online store for a reason. And if they really, really commit to this, they'll be able to do something that I will describe as moderate with it. I think people don't think of, I mean, you pay online with PayPal or you pay online with a credit card that's already stored there. Going through additional conversions and keeping up with coins. If they use it as a premium program, buy this, get some coins, look at this, get some coins, that might be the best use of it as an incentive program. But if Amazon throws everything behind it, well, we're going to be seeing this thing for a while, whether it's very successful or not, I'm afraid.
That's a good point. Well, China's anti-monopoly regulator said today that Qualcomm is overcharging for patents and abusing its market position. The San Diego-based company faces fines of more than $1 billion, if you can imagine that. Now, this is a fascinating story because, in fact, Qualcomm is huge in China, and China is huge for Qualcomm. Something like half the company's revenues are made in China, and 60% of phones in use in China use Qualcomm chips. So this is a big, big deal. Do you think this is a pretty straightforward thing where they maybe are overcharging for patents, or do you think there's something else behind these charges?
All of our hearts go out for the Chinese and patents and saying that American companies are overcharging them. It breaks me up to think that we might be overcharging the Chinese for technology. It's always nice when we can just get them to pay for technology. So I don't know if Qualcomm is overcharging or not. It's an easy claim to make, and these things tend to be more political than technical, I think. So this may just be another issue that's going to be batted back and forth between the American trade delegation and the Chinese trade delegation, with the poor people at Qualcomm caught in the middle. But again, the Chinese just drive us to exasperation, trying to steal our stuff. Again, I don't have a whole lot of sympathy for the claims of the Chinese.
It's an interesting fact that the organization within China that's charged with going after so-called antitrust claims is the National Development and Reform Commission. Their purpose, their mission, is to boost economic development in China. And of course, this move, if they can spank Qualcomm, get them to charge lower prices for their patents, this will benefit a number of people, and it'll benefit the companies within China who make smartphones that use Qualcomm chips, and it'll also benefit Chinese chip production, which is a major initiative by the Chinese government to boost chip production. So we'll see how that goes.
And is this domestic or is this for export? The Chinese doing things for their internal market seems like one thing to me. We're going to get lower prices for Chinese nationals in China versus we're going to get this these patent license fees lowered so that we can sell chips more effectively overseas and compete with more companies. So the market that they're trying to reach out to, I think is important in understanding this.
Interesting. Well, we're going to find out about a new supersonic jet that has no windows. But first, I want to tell you about Gazelle. Gazelle is a company that will buy your used iPhone, iPad, and other gadgets and pay you really good cash money for them. Something like 50% of people surveyed in a recent survey store their old devices in a box, in a drawer, in a garage. I have been one of those people before. You kind of don't want to part with the device. You get a new thing, you kind of forget about the old thing, and it's sitting around collecting dust instead of collecting cash, which is what you can do when you send it to Gazelle. Gazelle will enable you to go to their website, find your device. So you identify the specific device, you give an indication as to its condition, and then Gazelle will show you a price. That's how much they'll pay, and that price is locked in for 30 days. So you can kind of take your time sending it in. When you do send it in, if you have any personal data on it, they will wipe it completely so that your data is secure. You should probably erase it before you send it in anyway as a good practice, but if you forget, they'll take care of it for you. And again, all you have to do is go to gazelle.com. That's GAZELLE.com. Find your item, enter the condition. They'll even buy broken iPhones and iPads, which is pretty amazing. Most items qualify even for a free box. So it's super, super easy to send in your device, and even easier to spend the money they will give you. They'll pay by check, by PayPal, or if you want an extra 5%, choose the Amazon gift card option because they'll give you 5% more money for your used device. Gazelle has more than they have more than 700,000 customers to whom they've paid more than $100 million. So find out what your iPhone is worth. Take a minute and go to gazelle.com to find out. Do it now because your iPhone may lose value the longer you wait. Well, the world's first private supersonic jet will have no windows. And I'm not talking about Microsoft Windows. It won't have any windows in the side of the plane. The $80 million Spike Aerospace S512 will instead have HD cameras mounted all around the outside and giant high-definition curved screens on the inside. The effect is supposed to look like windows that form an unbroken view across the entire fuselage. Look at that. It's beautiful, but it's not real. It's actually a video screen showing you what's supposed to be outside. The feature actually improves the structure of the airplane, especially for supersonic flight, because windows are problematic when you're designing a plane. You have to account for a hole in the fuselage, so you lose some of the structural integrity of the plane, and so you have to do extra things, which in this case won't be necessary because there aren't going to be any windows. This plane will hit a top speed of 1,370 miles per hour. That's Mach 1.8, while carrying up to 18 passengers. I want one. This looks like an awesome airplane, and if the weather's lousy, you could probably just change the channel and look at some recording of some better weather. Who knows? It's all video. This is expected to fly in 4 years. Unfortunately, we'll have to wait 4 years to see this thing. Well, David, that's our show. I thank you so much for joining us as our guest today.
Well, thank you very much for having me. And I have my original, my original iPhone here that I can't really get money for, but you made me get up into my desk here and find it for the first time in a few years. So maybe I'll go check it out.
You should have sent it to Gazelle.com. Who knows? Maybe they'll still buy it, but always send in your stuff early and often. So where can people find your work these days, David?
SiliconAngle.com, SiliconAngle.com. I write columns 2 or 3 times a week, and of course we have news and commentary and video there every single day. Again, thank you very much for having me on.
Thanks for being on. Well, send your news tips to our email address at tnt@twit.tv or call 260-TNT-SHOW and leave a message. Also, post and upvote your favorite stories on our subreddit at technewstoday.reddit.com, and find the rest of our social pages by searching for Tech News Today on Twitter, Facebook, Google+, and YouTube. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to Tech News Today at twit.tv/TNT, and make sure you don't miss our evening newscast, Tech News Tonight, which is at 4 p.m. tonight Pacific and every weeknight here on the Twit Network. Thanks again for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow.